Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another unscripted video game chit chat with me, Mac. Today, I'm going to go over the Q&A session with the Fundog devs that was released yesterday, October the 25th. It's a little bit different this time. Instead of Miles, who I think is still away on his business trip, we have Jason, the audio director at Fundog, and he's of course with Jeff, the game design director. So yeah, let's get into it. I have five highlights from this Q&A session. I will start off by saying that because of the presence of Jason, there's a lot of questions and conversations about audio design and music composition. So for much of this Q&A, it's less of a question and answer and more of a fireside chat. And if you love talking about or learning more about audio design in games and musical compositions, this could be right up your alley. Because there's a lot of chit chat about musical influences and just like the nitty gritty of designing soundscapes and musical compositions, things like that. I know for myself, when the Doom remake came out several years ago, I was really into watching Mick Gordon interviews and seeing his documentaries on how he shaped the soundtrack for Doom 2016. So I will skip over that stuff for this video. I just wanted to put it out there that there's a lot of talk about like musical influences and things like that. So I'm gonna go more into the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of like the game design questions. So the first one I want to cover is somebody asked about whether there'd be fully modular rigs in the future, and Jeff took this question and he said yes, they're working on being able to allow players to more customize the rig setup, but they don't have a specific release date. And he mentioned that there's challenges related to, of course, the UI. Changing the UI so that allow you to easily modify the rigs and have it make sense. But of course, there's also a game balance challenge where they don't want players to just fully optimize their rig to a point where it's like OP, and then they have to make a decision whether they'll allow that or not. So I think they're approaching this very carefully so as to allow OP rigs to be designed by players, and that becomes the meta. They want to have, I can understand that they want to have each rig have its own personality and I guess keep within the character class restrictions that they have now, where, for example, the Scav girl cannot have as large of a rig as a Bagman. And they don't want to maybe subvert those limitations by allowing full customization. But he's pretty cagey on this one. He doesn't want to say too much. They're still exploring it, and they'll have some details sometime in the future, but just not right now. Okay, so another question that perked up my ears was somebody asking about whether there'd be more futuristic weapons and gear and enemies planned. Jeff was very enthusiastic about this one. He said yes, for sure, especially for weapons and gear. He didn't really say too much about futuristic enemy types. Well, we already have mechs and things like that. How much more futuristic can we get with the enemies? But who knows? In terms of futuristic weapons and gear, they have some, he said, bizarre things planned. However, they don't know how futuristic they want to get, like whether they'll be lightsabers or lasers or things like that. So pretty short on specific details again when it comes to futuristic weapons, but it is planned. And then Jeff talked a little bit about the design challenges that would bring, such as making sure that the new futuristic weapons would also fit on the rigs of the enemies, and not only the players but the enemies themselves, because they want the enemies to be used by both the AI and the player characters. And then, of course, with these futuristic weapons comes more opportunities for new sound designs to match. And so that got Jason talking about, how futuristic they could get these sound effects, things like that. But yeah, it is planned. Right now the weapons are very grounded in, I guess, modern realism, whereas like M60 is like a real world machine gun, and P90 is a real world SMG, and so on and so forth. We have the standard AK-47 archetype in the game, so it would be cool to see some photon blasters, plasma rifles, things of that nature in the future. But you know, there's a whole world of opportunity they could get into with the futuristic weapons. So we'll have to see. How do you plan to keep the game challenging? So this one was a good one. I really like this question, and Jeff talked a lot about making the game systemically react to which factions are gaining the upper hand on the battlefield. And they want to avoid making the system too reactive to player actions, because people would pick up on that easily, right? If like you do a specific action in the game, and then 10 exos show up every single time, then it becomes very predictable. It becomes very predictable and very superficial and not very immersive, basically. He says that right now there's a fair bit of R&D involved with how the system reacts to things happening on the battlefield, and they're just working through the challenge of making the system reactive, but also to make it readable by the players. And ultimately, Jeff really wanted to kind of stay true to the fantasy of the game, where if he's kind of taking on the role of he said, homeless old man who only cares about getting food and water, would he really care or notice which faction is actually winning the war on the battlefield, who's actually gaining the upper hand, pushing the front lines? Or could he even tell as a homeless scavenger just foraging for scraps? So in the end, it's almost like a nothing answer. Long story short, they're working on improving the game so it systemically reacts to the players' actions, also to what the factions are doing. So it's going to be a very intricate system. It's a tough balancing act. So we'll see how things evolve over time. Number 4. Was it number 4? Yeah. I have more than 5, actually. I think I have 6 notes here. The next one, anyway. Somebody asked if there will be more unique radio chatter. Radio chatter, unit barks, and faction-specific voice lines. And long story short, yes. They already work on this stuff. Jason mentioned that they're working through dealing with third-party partners, contractors. Of course, they have to write the scripts, hire voice talent. So there will be less generic radio chatter. They want to be able to have the player identify the faction by the radio chatter that they hear, and they want to even record Russian voice lines for the Etruscan faction, for example. So yeah, that stuff is coming up. It's just gonna take a bit of time, but that's definitely in the works. Okay, the next question was kind of a repeat. Somebody asked about character progress and whether there will ever be a wipe. And again, Jeff mentioned, he referred to previous Q&As where they said they want to avoid that. They really want to avoid doing any sort of wipe, especially if it's not mindfully done. There has to be a good reason if they're going to wipe progress, right? And he again expanded on their philosophy of wanting to extend or expand on the skill system rather than take away, or of course, rather than do a hard reset. He came up with an idea right on the spot, kind of near the end of that segment, where he said, oh, maybe we could set up a brand new skill system when we release the game fully, and then players would have the option of opting into it. But if they liked the skill system that they have in early access, they could stay with that. But if not, then they could promote to the new skill system in the full release, and then they could go from there. So that seems pretty interesting, and we'll have to see if they actually go that direction or not. Jason chimed in that he generally hates these kind of resets or wipes in a live game. he cited his experience with the MMO Neverwinter and said, although it wasn't like a wipe scenario that they had, they basically reworked their level system. So they usually they had a level cap of like 80, and then they squeezed it all down to a level cap of 20, so that if you had a very elder character on the server that was like level 80 already, they had to be nerfed almost down to level 20, and he generally didn't like that sort of thing. So I guess they're going to try to avoid that sort of situation as well in the future. And the final question I have that I want to recap for you guys, this is more of a fun question where somebody asked Jeff and Jason what their favorite run is in the Forever Winter. So for Jeff, I think Jeff is the only one who answered this question. Jeff recounted a personal close call when he was playing internally with Miles and some of the other guys on the team, and he said Jeff was about to die. He was on his last legs, like 16 hit points left, and he told the rest of his team to just extract without him. So he's just waiting to be finished off by the enemy squad, but at the last moment, they got distracted by another faction that came on the scene, and they started to fight. And then miraculously, he was able to get out of the harm's way, and everyone was able to extract safely. But I think the more interesting story he recounted was back on an earlier build when they brought the game to be playtested at a LAN party at a GDC, a game developers conference, if you don't know. So they had these people playing in a team, and then I think the team was doing very poorly, and I think a couple people were downed, and one of the guys was about to just abandon his team. He said, "Screw this, I'm out of here." And the guy who was about to desert, the deserter, he turned around to run, and he ran right into an EXO that was just about to do a ground pound. And then, the EXO ground pounded the guy, killed him instantly, and then what ended up happening was that the rest of his team managed to extract, and they left him behind. And it was one of those things, one of those moments where Jeff said, "Oh, you could not have scripted this. It just happened organically." And so that was a really cool story. I'm sure there's many more like this that you've experienced playing the Forever Winter, but those are, I guess, the 5 or 6 takeaways from this Q&A session. Again, it was cool to see Jason, the audio director, step in for Miles. It was nice to get his perspective on being the audio director for the game, and he is largely responsible for the kick-ass soundtrack for the Forever Winter, so we have to thank him for his hard work there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I'm posting these videos because I enjoy playing the Forever Winter, and I enjoy covering the development of this game that's in early access. If you like what you see, make sure the thumbs get lit up, the thumbs up get lit up, not the thumb down, but thumb up, and subscribe if you like the content on this channel. And make sure the bell is activated so that you're notified whenever new content or live streams come out for the channel. But yeah, until the next video, I will see you guys later. Take care, and yeah, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.